What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is me, Jello the Casual Card Gamer, and today we're going to be looking at probably the one deck that I am pushing forward for the most, Hexaorb Sorceress, as you guys could probably tell from the title of this video. We're going to be looking at what weird concoction I've put up today, and yeah, make sure that you guys stay tuned for the weekly remote fight stream for this deck. Probably won't be doing it tonight as of release because I did get my second dose of the vaccine, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be just knocked out for the rest of the day. But anyway, let's just get straight into this deck. Alright, first things first, as always, we have our ride line. No changes here at all, but for anybody who isn't already familiar, we have Tri-Connect Sorceress. Her ability is if you go second, draw a card, just like all other starters. Next we have Tier Square Sorceress. Her ability is when she's rode upon by Pentagleam, you can counterblast one to draw a card. Then her second ability is when you drive check a trigger, then you can counterblast one and return one of your opponent's front row rear guards to the bottom of the deck, which is nice. And then we have Pentagleam Sorceress, whose ability is when she's rode upon by a Hexaorb, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck for free and rearrange them in any way that you like. And then her rear guard ability is also free, so when she's placed on rear guard, you can look at the top card of your deck, you can leave it on top or put it on the bottom, and she gets +2 if you did put the card that she lets you look at on the bottom. And of course, the sorceress of the day, we have Hexaorb Sorceress. Her ability is when you drive check a trigger, you can give a rear guard plus 10k. So basically you're doubling most of your triggers, except for front triggers, of course. But still really good. Then her ability after that is turn when you persona ride, you can counterblast one, soul blast one, reveal a front trigger or a crit trigger from your hand and put it on the top of your deck. And you get to triple drive this turn, which is really nice. It is limited again to persona ride turns only, but thankfully the support that came with D-BT02 made it a lot easier on you if you aren't able to keep persona riding. Anyway, moving on, we have our grade 3s. They have stayed relatively the same. We have our other 3 copies of Hexaorb Sorceress, then our 2 copies of damaged Knight of War damaged Fasado, and 2 copies of Divine Sister Lepisto. We already know what Hexaorb Sorceress does. Fasado's ability is this unit cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, and when he hits, you can countercharge and soul charge 1. And Lepisto's ability is when your Vanguard drive checks a trigger, you can counterblast 2 to restand her and give her +5. So this used to be one of the, and it's still relatively one of the most important parts of a Hexaorb deck because it is only a 3 attack deck. But with Lepisto, you are able to make your opponent freak out just a little bit with that 1 extra attack. And especially on a persona ride turn, she is really good because you swing with her by herself for 23k, then she restands and she swings for another minimum 28 plus whatever's boosting her. So that's really good. And moving on. So one thing that I want to point out before we get into the grade 2s is that I wanted to try to make the deck a little more early game rush feeling. With the Gold Paladin-esque parts of the deck, it did seem like it is doable, and with a lot of the new cards, it is doable. And I know that you guys are probably going, "What the heck is that?" on through the camera. I'll get to it very soon. So we have 4 copies of Exquisite Knight Olwain. His ability is when he's placed on rear guard, if your Vanguard is Hexaorb, you can soul blast 1, look at the top 2 cards of your deck and rearrange them basically, and you can put any on the top and any number of them on the bottom, which is really nice. And his other ability is when you drive check a trigger, you can counterblast 1 to give him +10k. Next we have Sterilize Angel. I know this card's a bit of a meme out of the set because it is probably one of the worst double R's of the set. Her ability is if you have no counterblast No available counterblast, she gets plus 5k. Now I run 2 copies of her just because I do like to burn through my counterblast really early in the game. So this has become one of the ways that I can do an early game rush outside of before being able to go into Lepisto, and sometimes I don't even need to go into Lepisto because I have a lot of damage pressure already. Next we have Knight of Heavenly Destruction Capald. So his ability is when placed from hand, counterblast 1, rest one of your other rear guards, look at the top card of your deck, and if it is an order or a grade 3, you add it to your hand. If it is anything else, you can call it to your field. Now this is just for filling up field without having to use too much out of your hand. You're going to be calling 2 rear guards, of course, but it does help you get 0 counterblast for Sterilize Angel, and it also does help you call and thin the deck out a little bit. And of course we have our other copy of Pentagleam Sorceress. Now the reason that I'm running the Capalds over 2 more copies of Pentagleam is so that I can use up my counterblast a little bit faster. But even with the Capalds, I could go back to Pentagleams and not have too much of an issue with using up counterblast, and this is why. So we have 4 copies of the new Diaglass Sorceress, probably the best support card for Hexaorb this set. Its ability is when placed from hand, if your Vanguard is Pentagleam or Hexaorb, you can counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, call any number of them to the field, and then put the rest back on top of your deck. And it's so good because not only are you able to look at cards, you are also able to fill up your field if none of those cards are triggers, which is really good. The only downside would be calling a perfect guard, but what can you do? Then of course we run 4 copies of Aegis Mirror Dragon. On top of that, we run 3 copies of Divine Sister Tartine. So her ability is when she's placed, you can Soul Blast 1, rest her, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 on top and the other on the bottom. And lastly, we still run 3 Knights of Heavenly Wind, Vachel, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but I still do run her just to hit those magic numbers early game to make it a little more annoying to guard. You do want to be forcing out any triggers from your opponent's hand just so that later on in the game they don't have those resources for when you're smashing them for big numbers using Hexaorb's passive skill. But anyway, that is it for the grade 1s. And for the triggers, of course, we run our 1 Martinoa. So for anyone who doesn't know what Martinoa does, when you drive check it, you your rear guards also get to drive check, which is really nice for refilling your hand. Next, we run 7 crits. 7 crits because crits are fun. And 4 of the new front trigger. Now, I changed the front triggers in for the draw triggers because the draw triggers were nice, but now that we have other ways to fill up the field without having to use our hand cards all the time, it is a little better. Plus, they're 20k guard later in the game, which is really nice, and you can put them back on top of the deck with Hexaorb if you don't have any crits in your hand to do so. And of course, we have our 4 heal triggers. And that is it for this deck profile, guys. What do you think? I really have been enjoying the play testing for this, and I will be doing a stream sometime this week, hopefully. Anyway, guys, what did you think? What do you guys think of Hexaorb's new support cards? They're really, really, really fun to play, and Hexaorb really is a deck now. It's not just leftovers of what Bastion doesn't really care to use. So yeah, I'm really excited to do the stream for this, and I can't wait for next week when I do another deck. I don't know what deck I'm going to do. I'm probably going to do Blasters. Staying in Keter Sanctuary for a little bit. But anyway, guys, that is it from me. I am Jello, the casual card gamer. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave your comments and suggestions down in the comments section below. And make sure you tell your friends if you think that they'll enjoy what we got going on over here. And yeah, that is it from me. I am Jello the Casual Card Gamer. Take care.